Good morning, guys and girls. Hope everyone's doing well. This is part one of the 4 videos we're going to make about the way I've got from doing almost nothing in January to where I am now with the fitness, etc. On the bike. So quite a few people have asked that I do that, so happy to do so. So today we're just going to talk about the technology that's available now. When I was riding before, a lot of it was guesswork, or if it wasn't guesswork, you were having to pay someone to tell you this information. So you'd be paying a doctor or somebody to provide you with this information, where now you can do it all yourself. So quite amazing. So I've done kind of a little, just a little sheet for me, a little diagram of how we're doing things now, and I've learnt some of this as I've gone, because of course I didn't know in January I didn't know exactly how we were going to go about all this stuff. So it's kind of what we've ended up with now after excuse me, February, March, April, May, June, 5 months of doing it. So what I'll do is I'll make the video and then I'll cut in these elements to show you these elements of each thing that I'm talking about. So starting off with the scale. So I bought a set of smart scales, and the smart scales are like ordinary digital scales, except they measure other things as well as your weight. And they measure your weight, they measure your muscle mass, they measure the amount of fluid in your body every day, they measure your bone mass, which doesn't change. I mean, in my case, my bones weigh 3 kilos, so that's not that's not going to change, unless something dramatic happens. My bones are always going to weigh 3 kilos. So I know that, for instance, if I weigh 86 kilos, 3 of those kilos are bone. It's just a fact. So what is quite interesting is, obviously in the body weight, I tend to weigh myself either every day or every other day on the scales when I get up. And that's usually around sort of 7 in the morning when I weigh myself. Just out of bed before I have any breakfast or anything else. So I'm weighing myself at the same time every day. I don't think it matters when you weigh yourself, but I think it's important to weigh yourself at the same time every day so that you get consistent. Either you've had your breakfast or you haven't had your breakfast or whatever, and you get your readings. Now those readings fluctuate substantially, as much as a kilo, in fact, if you're doing it on a daily basis, simply because of situation. I mean, what you ate yesterday, what you didn't eat yesterday, and what I find, especially living here in what's quite a hot climate, the amount you drink has a big variation. That weight of fluid in your body. So if you slightly underhydrate the day before, it has quite a dramatic effect. You can quite easily be a kilo less than you are expecting because of the lack of fluid. So it's also a good indicator of being slightly underhydrated, not dehydrated, but slightly underhydrated. And you're able to monitor that as well. So you should be, ideally, not losing more than 2% of your normal fluid amount that's in your body. So even during hard exercise, you should be hydrating yourself enough that you only lose a maximum of 2%. Any more than that, it becomes dangerous, it becomes dehydration. So we're starting off with the scale, and that's giving all that information. And that scale uploads that information into an app by Bluetooth that's on my iPhone. So on the iPhone here, I've got an app which is called VitaDoc. And VitaDoc, the scale uploads that information into VitaDoc. This is just the app for this manufacturer. but any scale you bought would do the same thing, and they would have their own app for it. And this just records everything. So it records everything from the scale. So it's giving you, so you know, you just get like a dashboard. If you can see that, okay, you get a dashboard, and the dashboard gives you your, you know, your daily figures, your weekly figures, your monthly figures, and if you go online on VitaDoc and log in, you get a much bigger picture with a lot of graphs and everything else. So what we're looking for is trends. You know, we're not drilling down into detail, because this isn't specific enough for that. So we're looking for trends. So basically, if I want to lose weight, we're looking for trends. We're looking for, you know, is the graph going like that? Is it going like this, or is it going like that? You know, we're just looking for trends. Are we going in the right direction? So overall, my aim was to, I was 90 kilos in January, and my aim was to be somewhere around 83, 82 for this race that's coming up in Madrid. I'm pretty sure I'm going to lose around about a kilo during the race. And when we're there, we're around the 83 mark. I was 82 something the other day, 83 something, up to 84 when I've had a lot of water to drink. You know, so we're in that zone now of fluctuation around the 83. We're above and we're below the 83. After the race, I'm expecting to be firmly around the 82, you know, above and below the 82. And by the time we get to the French race in October, I'm expecting to be around the 80, 81, 80, which is, for me, would be ideal. That's where I would like to be. I don't want to be, you know, dramatically thinner than I am now, because I have other responsibilities. I have responsibilities here, which means I can't, you know, emaciate my upper body to the extent that a professional cyclist would, to get the weight down to give the high power to weight ratio. I don't want to do that. So around the 80 kilos is fine. And when I was young, that's what I was, about 80 kilos. Didn't matter how much food I ate or anything, I was always about 80 kilos. So that's fine for me to be 80 kilos. So the scale starts it off. That uploads to the app, and the app gives you an overview of how things are going. The Apple Watch that I've got on all the time is obviously monitoring my heart rate all the time and monitoring my activity all the time. So both the scale and the Apple Watch are feeding into two apps on the phone. So apart from the actual app for the scale, that then automatically feeds into Apple Health, which is a general overview of your health in terms of the same type of tracking. But of course the scale's not doing anything to do with my heart or activity. The scale's only doing like a static overview of weight and statistics. Whereas the Apple Watch is monitoring my heart rate all the time, it's monitoring my activity all the time, not only on the bike, but also off the bike, like everything, and my sleep, which is equally important. The amount of sleep you get is equally important to the amount of exercise you do, because if you're doing loads of exercise and you're not sleeping properly, you're just going to deteriorate. And so the Apple Watch is monitoring through the activity and the health app. It's monitoring what's going on and giving me another representation. Again, we're not drilling down into that every day. We're just looking at a trend. You know, did I sleep roughly 8 hours a night last week, all the way through the week? You know, if not, why not, or whatever. And what's interesting with the activity is, of course, it picks up, because it's a two-way. It's picking up from the Apple Watch my activity. It's likewise pulling from the other apps, which we're going to go on to now. It's pulling my training information into it as well. So you've got it coming from the watch and you've got it coming from the training. And it combines those two to give me an overview of my day. So I might have, for instance, I might have burnt 1,500 calories just doing stuff around here, just being in the garden, doing some work, doing whatever. And then I might go out on a training ride and I might burn 3,000 calories, for instance, on the training ride. And then I'll come back and do some other bits and pieces. So overall, for that day, I've burnt 4,000, 5,000 calories. If you just took the training ride on its own, you'd see you burnt 3,000 calories. But actually for that day, I've burnt 5,000 calories. And so it gives an overview of the whole thing. And how much needs to go in. How much needs to go in, even just to maintain what's going on, let alone, build up or whatever. So, you're trying to gauge what's going on a daily basis. So you see that on days when I'm not training, I'm burning 1,500, 2,000 calories, whatever, doing what I'm doing. On the days that I am training, I might be burning 4,000, 5,000 calories overall with the training ride and the stuff around here. So that's a two-way thing. So then we've got from the scale, the Apple Watch, we've got to the iPhone and all the apps that are on the iPhone. And then we've got Strava. Now you very often see Strava when I post a video. I put a Strava link in the description. And that is being fed by my computer. So this little computer, which is a wireless computer, the Wahoo computer, this little computer is quite incredible in the amount of information it records. It records everything about the ride, absolutely everything. And it's receiving information from my heart rate monitor, which is strapped to my chest. It's receiving information from my cadence monitor, which is the pedals going around, the revs per minute. It's receiving information from the wireless speed monitor, which is on the front hub. And it will also receive information from any kind of power meter you have that's measuring the amount of wattage you're putting out. And I do that through an app, because there's an app which calculates the wattage. It's quite a complicated algorithm, but it uses all the information to calculate the wattage that you're putting out, including the GPS position where you are, because it knows that if you're in a certain GPS position, you're climbing up a hill and the hill is 15%, or you're going downhill and it's -3%, or whatever it is, it knows where you are. So it's a very good app, and it's pretty accurate. It's accurate to within 3%, which is enough for what I do. You can go further, and I am going to go further into having a much more accurate power meter, which unfortunately costs money, like all these things do. But at the moment, I'm still using the app, and the only downside of the app is, as I just said, it needs GPS. So if the phone goes out of GPS range, so you go out into the middle of the countryside, it doesn't calculate because it doesn't know where it is, so it can't work out what's going on. So that app is working out the power. So with the computer, and it gathers all this information. Now, when you come back from the ride, this automatically, as soon as it's in a wireless network, it uploads to Strava, and it uploads the ride. And anybody who's logged into any of those links I put on the description, you see the ride, you see a map of the ride, you see all the statistics for the ride. You see if I've set any personal bests on segments of the ride that people have recorded. It compares my times to others. You can click on a flyby button. So, for instance, when I do the race, anyone else who's recorded the race on Strava, if you click on flyby, you will see all the other riders, and you press the button, and everyone sets off, and you see everybody going around the track. So it's good to compare, like where you lost time or gained time or whatever. So Strava is recording the ride. That's what I use to record the ride. It's actually the computer, but Strava logs it. So once the computer has that information, the computer then uploads that when I get back, and it uploads it to two things. It uploads it to Strava, which records the ride and gives you all of that, and it uploads to Training Peaks, which is a online training program that I subscribe to. I have to pay for. And Training Peaks is all about the drilling down into the real statistics of the ride. So this is very much more specific. The Strava is like a general of the ride. If you set any personal bests, if you did a segment the fastest, and it compares you against other people. So if you're training on your own, it's really good because you know there's a hill that everyone records their time on. So you try harder, when you're out on your own, you don't just bimble around riding. Training Peaks is recording all the statistics. Your heart rate was this on this climb, and then you can do like for like. So you can go out and do the same ride again, and you can see you went faster. So you look at your statistics. Okay, well, why did I go quicker up there? Was my heart rate higher, or was my cadence higher, or what was it that made me go faster up there? So this is a very much more detailed program, if you like, or app, or whatever you want to call it, for information. So that's really there's never any point me posting Training Peaks information because it's just so detailed. It's quite complicated to read, actually. It's all these little graphs and all the stuff. So Strava just gives a picture of the ride, compares your times against other things. So the computer, the bike computer communicates through an app called the Element app. So it speaks to the Element app. The Element app automatically grabs the information from the Health app on the iPhone. So you've got the Health app and the Activity app, and from the Health app, the Element app for the computer grabs that information and updates all the time. So the Element app always knows how much you weigh, how much your physical makeup is, what your heart rate has been. It knows all that stuff to incorporate into whatever else you're trying to incorporate. And that Element app transfers that information again. It automatically updates everything. So everything knows, from weighing yourself on that scale, knowing how much you weigh and what your composition is, your muscle mass and everything. That comes up to the iPhone on the app. That goes into the Health app, and the Health app then updates everything else. So your bicycle computer knows how much you weigh, knows all of your statistics for that day automatically. Strava knows all your weights and everything. So when it's trying to calculate anything, it knows all that stuff. And unfortunately, Training Peaks, even though I pay for Training Peaks, it doesn't do it automatically. When I first got it, I was manually entering in every day what my body weight was for that day and everything else. But I found an intermediate free app that I don't know what time it's set at. I'm sure it's designed in the US, so it's set at some US time. But it just coincidentally uploads at 9 o'clock in the morning here. So if I weigh myself at 7 and I've got all those statistics ready, at 9 it updates Training Peaks. So it tells Training Peaks what my statistics are for that day, and Training Peaks has it all. So then when Training Peaks comes to calculate how I'm getting on, it's got all that information on a daily basis. It's already there. I haven't got to enter in my weight for that day and my muscle mass and all that stuff. It's already gone up. So that's that part of it. So, it sort of sounds complicated. It's not that complicated, but that's where we've arrived at. So that's kind of the picture of it all, of how it works. So you're recording information, starting with the scale, up to the iPhone, and the iPhone's grabbing information from the scale and from the Apple Watch to give a picture of my situation at any given moment that day, because I only weigh myself once a day or once every 2 days. So it's giving a picture of that. It uploads that information into the places it needs to upload it for calculations to be made by software or apps or whatever. Likewise, it grabs information down from Strava, etc., to build up a picture of my activity. So it's logging all my activity during the day anyway, but then when I go out on a training ride, it grabs that from Strava and it incorporates it into the health app, so the health app knows overall what I've done that day. And so from that, we build up a picture, and all we're trying to build up is a picture of what's going on, a trend. We're not, apart from in Training Peaks a little bit, but we're trying to just build up a trend. Like, I want to lose weight because I want a higher power to weight ratio. I want to be, when I climb, I don't want my muscles pumping 88 kilos up the hill. I want it pumping 82 or 80 kilos up the hill, because then I'm going to go faster, because the power I generate will propel me quicker. If I'm propelling a little compact car up the hill, I'm going to propel it quicker than I'm propelling a lorry up the hill, a truck. It's just physics. So power to weight ratio is important. And so that's what, we're trying to lose weight. The trend needs to be down because we're trying to increase our power to weight ratio. So we're looking for trends. So this is how I'm doing it. This is the system. We're building up a picture. We decide on our strategy based on the picture, and we decide on our fueling off the bike and on the bike in order to achieve what we're trying to achieve. So I hope that wasn't too much. That's the first one. It's just about the stuff. I will cut in, so you'll see as we go through, I'll cut in these things I've talked about, the scale, obviously the iPhone apps, the Training Peaks and the Strava, and you'll see how it all looks. It's not complicated because once you've set it all up, it just does it anyway. You haven't got to intervene, it's just doing it all the time. And then you can just drop into each thing and see how things are going in general. The trends, and the trends are what we're looking for. All right, guys. Well, I hope that was enjoyable, if somewhat complicated, like going back to school, isn't it? And the next one will be about diet, i.e. nutrition and diet. So we will talk about that in number 2. All right, guys and girls, I hope everyone is doing well and having a good day, and I will speak to you all again very soon. Bye for now.